So let's start with a bit of a thought experiment. Let's say some new scientific evidence came to your knowledge seeking attention and proved that the God of the Bible existed. Or maybe some theologically minded person convinced you. Or perhaps you had an unexplainable supernatural vision of God. Either way, knowing that this powerful creator or deity of Christianity exists, would you worship him? For some, the answer may be an obvious yes, because all they're really doing is just trying to figure out what's real and what's not. But for others, just because someone exists does not mean that he is automatically deserving of worship. Would you like the fact that the Christian God exists? Would there be certain activities, hobbies, traits that would be too painful for you to part with to be a Christ follower? Would the baggage and obligations not be ideal? Do you enjoy being a free agent more? Perhaps it would be too hard to justify or excuse things like the concept of hell, the Old Testament killings, or the view of freedom of expression, artistic expression, what you are not allowed to watch, listen, or do. These are some things that I myself have thought about, and I'm sure other people thought about before as well. When it comes to the topic of does a God exist or not, I think an underlying psychological thing that's hard for some people to deal with is, so if this God is proven to be true, would you end up worshiping it? And that can be an interesting idea and even a scary thought to really conceive of. So today on the panel, I have Blue and I have Kelsiers with me. Did you guys want to share your thoughts first?
Oh, well, it wasn't made clear to me before the hangout, but no, if the Christian God, the God of the Bible exists, no, I would not. No, you can start the fire on me right now, Yahweh. You can go fuck off.
I see.
No, I didn't know it was specific to Christian either. No. There's hardline no. Guaranteed.
Okay. Interesting.
Now,
is there any specific details of why?
Because, first of all, the Bible is a fucked up text full of lies. That a God would describe himself as jealous. I'm a jealous God. Well, you know what? I don't like jealous people, so I will not like jealous gods. I mean, a little jealous. Everybody's a little jealous. But I'm a jealous God. You got, not to mention everything I could name in the Bible, like, you know, setting your kid on fire or selling people, or the rules for slavery, or how to sell your daughter when you need money. No, the Bible, absolutely not. Now, if you want to expand that, Trill, and say, oh, well, you know, we found something else, like, you know, there's this, Obi-Wan was right, man, the Force really exists, or you know, if there's evidence like that, I gotta think that a God existed, wouldn't give a fuck if I worshipped him. You know, hey, thanks, Blue, that's all right. Hey, thanks, Jason Burns. Hey, thanks, Von Helm. Thanks, Michelle Obama. All that, you know. But okay.
No, that's okay. Kelsier, is there any specific reasons why you feel the way you do?
Well, for one, if the Christian God exists, one, he's a fucking psychopath.
Okay.
I mean,
interesting.
Let's go all the way back to Genesis for this one. Okay. Take a look at the interactions between Lucifer and the Christian God, okay? And you basically see Lucifer there going, you've most definitely created something you're going to look at negatively. You're going to hate this. This is an imperfect creation. You should destroy them now. You know, you're way too much of a perfectionist. And trying to bring reason, and he's like, no, you're down too. bringing any reason to this God even made him go psychotic and burn someone forever. Just trying to reason with him. That kind of person, I don't think I could ever worship him.
So where exactly are you getting this from? Because I find the whole, because sure we all know about the whole thing, how, you know, the devil used to be an angel, all this kind of stuff. But where exactly are you getting this interpretation from where he's trying to reason with God? That's why you got?
Yeah.
Like, where does this come from? Like, maybe I'm
It
unfamiliar.
comes from Genesis. It's the time, you know, when they're talking about how the devil got thrown down, right? That's the story.
Genesis doesn't actually mention that. I'm serious. I don't know if you know this, but you're talking to a non-atheist, but still an ex-Christian here, and Genesis does not.
I'm an
mention
ex-Christian as well. It may have been in a different version that I read. You know, I may have been reading the wrong one when I read Genesis.
Right.
I might not have gone to original text on that one. I'm sorry, but
right. Yeah, I don't think it comes from Genesis. I'm just trying to figure out where this came from, because as far as I understand now, I could be wrong too.
He just said it was an imperfect being that wasn't. These are imperfect. I am greater than these. That is what he said, I believe. To get to exact words, but it's still basically saying you made me better. You don't even view me as perfect. You even hate me. I might be viewing it slightly different than other people, but
okay. Well, because here's what I remember. I could be wrong. Like, I might have to refer back to the text or whatever if I was really to make a theological discussion on that. But theology to me is mostly boring. But if I were to look back, I think it was about the fact that, like, Lucifer himself wanted to be God, or that he himself thought that he was better.
Not exactly. He viewed himself as better than humans and more worthy of worship.
Right.
And God said to worship them, to worship humans or something like that. And he was like, but these are imperfect beings. And when he's saying that, he's not necessarily trying to say it as it doesn't even seem like it's relevant to what an argument for his his view. You know what I mean?
Okay, so
doesn't seem to be. It's not like he's asking to be worshipped by them.
Okay, so you're under the impression more it's about, I guess trying to point out like God's flaws or whatnot. That's what he got kicked out for.
In a way, saying that they were imperfect beings made by someone like that would have most definitely pissed someone like that off. I mean, I may have spent a lot of time thinking about that and analyzing the Satanist argument, the like actual Satanist argument, but no, even pointing out flaws with the creation caused issues.
Right. Okay, so that's kind of where that view comes from, huh? Okay, so I was trying to figure it out where you're getting that from, and it kind of makes sense that depending on how somebody views the theology, you're gonna have your own theological take on it. Because, no offense, like I get where it's coming from, or anything. I just don't think that your particular way of viewing it is biblical. Like, that's not Bible canon. That's something else. But
maybe more Torah canon.
Maybe. Like, again, I'm not super familiar with the original text, but yeah. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, it's one of those things where I honestly feel that somebody in the live chat actually made a very good point that relates to this. Because in their live chat, somebody said, let me see here. It was that I resurrected guy. He said that he's basically saying that there's different ways of interpreting that God, because the Abrahamic God or whatnot, different people have different ways of interpreting it, but they all essentially worship the same God. But it's like it's a different, like it's like they all worship the same God, and if one of the religions is correct, two of them worship him wrong, if you know what I mean. So that makes things even more confusing too. So it's like if that God was proven to exist, we still don't know the right religion out of three different religions unless we can have even more information.
I mean,
right?
Technically speaking, we're still not even covering Mormonism.
Right.
Now,
well,
because that's even got a further book
right.
that's unique to that.
Right. It can get even deeper. Shoot. Yeah, I know. I wasn't that like written pretty recently, so it's pretty easy to debunk. Like that's more of a recent sort of interpretation. Because what, didn't that make it so like God's like mythology has to do with America and stuff? That doesn't seem very credible. And hey, Cyborg, you're here too. So.
Oh, hi, Cyborg.
Yeah.
Thanks for answering me, Kelsier. Net.
Answering you?
I messaged you on Discord. It's fine. I just assumed you had notifications turned off.
Sorry.
Yeah. So the whole it's like the whole thing with that is that I honestly feel like it's really easy to discount things like the Mormons' way of interpreting things and Jehovah's Witness way of interpreting things, not because a lot of these came much later.
Jehovah's Witness.
Because they add their own stuff to it as well. It's not quite the same as Christianity, so. So I mean, I don't think that would be as much of a problem. However, if you're talking about like the three major faiths, like just.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I was just it goes even deeper. Technically, there's like 30,000 sects of Christianity.
Right. See, and those would be the things I'd be more concerned with because those have been around a lot longer, I think, than even Mormonism and all that stuff. Like some of the stuff goes back to like what the 16th. Some of the stuff goes back to like what 16th century or whatever. Yeah. And the thing with these sects is that I hate to burst your bubble here, but some of them actually are still pretty much compatible with each other. Not all of them, but a lot. They can still say, okay, you believe in this little bit specific interpretation over here, and you believe in this specific interpretation, but you're still kind of doing the same thing. So at the end of the day, you both go to heaven.
It's so weird how they just get so specific with it that there's 30,000. It's like,
right. Oh,
dude, come on.
Right. No, but here's the thing. This is how I view it. It's like, I think of Baptist, Pentecostal, Calvinist. They have different views of things, but they're still like Protestant and they still believe the same basics. So
Yeah,
I feel like still all Christians technically.
I feel like Baptists are just the friendliest of Christians. Just we love you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. The way I view it is that everyone that has a religion tends to believe that their particular version is the correct one. And the thing is, there are so many different versions that it's almost like the individual is the God. It's almost like individuals are asking to be worshipped.
Right.
It's called being a prophet.
Yeah, and I understand. Like here's the thing, I don't feel like it's that confusing, guys. Like honestly, I feel like as long as you like there's a few parameters that you might have a little bit of trouble with, but once you break those down, I think as long as you're like a Protestant Christian, one of those denominations, you're pretty much fine. As long as you don't, deny Jesus's divinity and stuff. But as long as you have the basics down, all this extra stuff is just baggage, like tacked on. Like back when I considered myself a Christian, I didn't even call myself a denomination at all. Because I felt like it didn't matter to me.
I mean,
Like,
honestly,
who cares if we have free will or not, or if it's, you know, God loves everybody or doesn't, you know, like the whole Calvinism verse. Or I mean, like, who cares? It's just extra crap. It's like, let's care about the basics. Maybe that's right, maybe that's not. You know, I wasn't concerned too much about it.
if it the question for me, if God were proven to exist, would I worship him? It's not that simple for me. First you have to prove him, then you have to prove to me that God is good.
Right. See, and that's the kind of the thing I wanted to tackle today, specifically. So again, we're taking a hypothetical stance here. If the God of the Bible exists, like I said in the beginning, let's say he exists. Now, you know, he exists and everything. Doesn't mean you want to worship him. And the answer isn't automatically yes. As you said, you want to be proved, you know, that this God is good. And that's a fair point. His existence doesn't automatically prove he's good. Just because people call him good doesn't mean he's good, maybe by, you know, your definition, or good enough for you, in your view. Right? I don't want to put words in your mouth. So
I'd be responding more, but I just spilled dip on my lap. Chip dip, not like tobacco dip. Calm down.
Right. So yeah, with the like, when people are saying this, like, you know, does God exist or not? I feel like a lot of the times that the existence, whatever, that's just one part of that's like just going over the hump, essentially, of, you know, overcoming atheism or whatever. Because then you still have to deal with the fact if you're actually going to follow this God or not. So sure, you can acknowledge this God exists, but some people would not want to submit, and therefore that wouldn't automatically make them Christians. Like, I don't know, I think it's kind of a mistake for some people to say, oh, if God were proven to exist, I'd definitely become a Christian, because like, like, I don't know you, so I'm not going to make that judgment. It's like, would you really? Like, would you really become a Christian if that actually was proven to be the case? Because the way you guys already, you know, joke around about the God of the Bible and everything, it sure doesn't seem like it. I mean, let's just be honest. All right. And this is coming from, you know, a misotheist over here. So I feel your pain. I'm right there with you. But, you know, it's like, just because, you know, the God's proved to exist doesn't mean that, you know, you would worship it. So I think it's a fair thing to think about. Some people think it's a ridiculous kind of thing, but not really.
Well, no, this is a side I've never argued, you know. So it's most definitely interesting, but I don't know. I definitely view the God of the Bible as definitely harmful to pretty much everyone. I mean, the idea of original sin keeps people kind of self-hating.
Right. No, I get it. I've seen it, like, with my own eyes, and I've experienced it too. Shoot. So yeah, I know what you mean.
I mean, I could say this: if God were proven to me, it might be a little less blasphemous.
Yeah, it might change your behavior a little bit. Yeah.
Now that I know Sky Daddy's watching me masturbate, I might change what I masturbate to. Wait, God can't look at sin. He's not watching me masturbate.
To disturb him more?
Turn on some midget porn. All right, new topic.
That's what I was thinking you were saying, Cyborg. So you are agreeing that you would just want to piss this God off?
No. Listen, if I was an ant and a little kid held an hour, like a magnifying glass up to me, I wouldn't piss him off.
So again, it's more out of a fear sort of thing, right?
I mean, I would have no choice but to fear him.
Right. Well, duh. I mean, yeah, you'd definitely be afraid, but
I wouldn't be respectful, but I wouldn't be disrespectful.
I see what you mean. You kind of just want to get by, right? You know,
sure. And if I go down
to, like, you know, it's like, you know, you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone, kind of thing.
And if I end up going to hell, I'll just make friends with Satan. wouldn't happen, but you know.
It's wishful thinking, though, right? Because that's totally
Very
not how
wishful.
it works.
You know, honestly, I think I'd be over there pissing on his shoe.
Okay. Yeah, he kind of the opposite reaction. Oh, hey, Jared. Did you have any thoughts since you just entered the hangout?
Evening, everyone. Now, when you're talking about the Abrahamic God,
You're a little far away from your mic. It's hard to hear you.
Oh, sorry. I put the headset in. So, are you talking for New Testament?
I'm talking.
Because if we're looking at Old Testament God, fuck that cunt.
Same. Fuck that.
So wait. So you're kind of you're of the impression that they're two different gods for some reason.
Mentalities. It's two different mentalities. When you actually look at interactions with God as laid out in the Bible, versions of the Catholic, there is a clear between the Old Testament and the New Testament.
All right.
Whereas in the Old Testament, God was very hands-on, faithful, and he did not take shit. Give you a couple warnings, but that third time, warning, your ass is getting fucked up. New Testament with Jesus, he's much more of the hippie God, the very forgiving, very loving, very lack of a better term, hippie mom kind of God.
To an extent.
Exactly.
Jesus did once lose his temper, but that was because of all the sin in front of him.
I don't quite agree with that. Because the New Testament, there's still some pretty disturbing stuff in my opinion.
It is. There is still a limit.
Yes.
You're looking at the difference between a loving mother and your stern father.
Right.
Between the two.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the thing is, or even be in the middle, be more 50-50. Just don't play the bipolar crap with me.
What do you mean? Can you be a little more specific? I think I know what you're trying to say, but
just like in my personal life with people that are in my inner circle, all I ask for is consistency. If you're going to be a dick, just be a dick. Don't try to play nice. Just be yourself.
All right, I'll be a dick. Fuck you. I'm kidding. I love you.
Wow. But my opinion, that they're both the same God. Like, sure, Old Testament God, you could say that there was he was a little more hands-on or whatnot. But a way of looking at it is the fact that these stories in the Old Testament or whatnot, they're spread out over a long period of time. And the New Testament stuff, maybe it was closer in time or whatnot, because the thing is that maybe God is just as active as he's always been. But there's like these times, there's these down periods where he isn't quite as supernaturally active.
He's focusing on the aliens.
Something else, as he was in other times. And maybe the reason why it seems like the Old Testament God's so active is because a lot of these stories where he was active are lumped together and is skipping all the years and stuff where nothing exciting does happen.
Well, but taking that into account, there really were only a couple jumps where there was a lot of time, and that was going from Genesis to Noah, from Noah to Moses. But then from that point on, it was very, very close. You follow the progression of the Jewish kings at that point,
right?
So you're not really getting all that massive time jumps between appearances.
Well, to play a devil's advocate, maybe God is that was setting up. It's like when you set up a computer, you have to do less maintenance later on in its life. You got all that hardcore maintenance. You got to be really active on it at the beginning, get everything set up. Once everything's set up, Jesus has come. Well, you can be a little less active. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that actually is a good point too.
Yep, fair point. That is a different way of looking at it that I didn't consider.
Yeah, because the way I see it, like they are the same God, and as far as like what accounts for the difference, the only way I can really see justifying or rationalizing it in my head, other than just to say, well, God's weird like that, is to basically say that in the Old Testament, that's before Jesus came and did his thing by dying on the cross and stuff for everybody's sins. So therefore, a lot more aggressive stuff back then because there wasn't that whole redemption angle and that put in place yet. So at the time, maybe people were still like directly responsible for their sins and all that, and there was no, I guess, easy forgiveness method put in place yet. And then later on, there was. So then God could be less hands-on and stuff because, like, well, here's kind of the way out, and he doesn't have to be so aggressive with punishments and that anymore. Like, I don't know. That's just another way of looking at it. Because, like, there's stuff pre that whole Jesus covenant or whatnot. Then there's stuff after the whole Jesus covenant things.
One of the reasons God could have just like started to do less work, like more active work, like in our noticeable work. Excuse me. It's because in the Old Testament there wasn't a book for people to read and follow, and then in the New Testament they had the Old Testament. Right. And he had to be a little less active. He had to do a few less miracles, and then he sent Jesus, and slow down.
Right. And
or maybe he moved on to his other pet project.
Well, who knows? Because they don't really talk about this project, but it might be other ones exist. Somebody in the live chat actually asked, "Why is disbelief the only unforgivable sin?" That depends on your interpretation of that verse, because I've heard it interpreted in many different ways. Not everybody agrees that's the unforgivable sin.
I think they mean it like you can be the nicest atheist on earth. You can give everything you have. You can do everything to the Bible says, except worship, and still go to hell.
Oh, okay. That's what they mean. Oh, okay. Because if they meant the other thing, I've seen that verse interpreted another way, where it's like, this sin will never be forgiven or whatnot. But that's not everybody views it the same way as unbelief. Some people view it as like, attributing Jesus's works to Satan and stuff like that. Like that's the unforgivable sin. But it honestly depends on how you interpret that one, and I don't even know.
What if the entire Bible was just Satan? It wasn't God. That explains why he talked through fire in a bush, and why there's a snake, and why that staff turned into a snake instead of, say, a flower. Mighty oak.
But to answer his question, if he's just saying the only unforgivable sin is disbelief, just as in like, why is that the determining factor? I don't think it's so much the belief part of it as it is the fact that you kind of need to accept, basically enter into like a covenant kind of thing with Jesus. So, he forgives you of your sins and all that, and you become a follower of his, It's kind of like, the way I view it, it's more like a contract. It's not so much just the belief of it, because about myself, I know I sound like a broken record. A lot of people around here know that my particular theological position is a misotheist, where I still do believe that God and that exists. And I don't think it's as simple as just believing he exists, because shoot, even I believe he exists. I believe the Jesus stuff happened. It's not about just believing.
I've always said it would be folly to say that there's no God out there. Absolutely, that that for certain, because we don't. And on that scale, our knowledge would be incredibly tiny.
Right. See,
now I'm willing to put out there and say that there are non-corporeal beings that can interact with this. Yeah. Well, not so much spirits, but think about higher forms of life, higher forms of intelligence that still are able to access this realm, but they don't have a physical body.
Weird.
So they
Yeah.
talk through burning bushes.
They would have to find other means. Like, a great look at it is actually Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Rates of the Bajoran culture. They were non-corporeal beings that lived in the dimensional space of the wormhole, but still could influence things out in the three-dimensional realm.
Okay.
So a being like that, each person, yes, that would classify as a supernatural god because of their abilities. But are they truly a god, or are they just a life that we do not fully understand?
Right. Okay. Just to answer another thing in the live chat, because I want to make sure everybody watching is part of the conversation too. Otherwise, it's kind of boring for them. One of them said, "I don't believe in Jesus. Do I go to hell? No matter how good I am?" And again, it's because I'm not like I don't know, I just have to play apologist here, because you can't just misrepresent it. Look, even I don't like God, okay, and you can't just misrepresent it like that. It's
Oh my God! It's Mr. Intelligent Design.
yeah, it's basically
Hey, friend.
it's basically because it's not about, because as long as you've done something bad, you've still kind of gone against like God's rules. Because kind of like, that you've probably heard this a million times, the Christian apologists play the whole thing where it's like, the judge, right? Where it's like, if you've done something bad, it doesn't matter how good you are, you still have to pay for that one bad thing. So, you do something wrong, that has to be taken care of somehow. So when the people say, well, look how good I am, it just should be, I should have more good things on top of my bad things, and that should be enough. It's like,
if we're gonna talk about that,
yeah,
we're gonna end up having to bring in like a risk assessment.
Okay.
Risk assessment. Okay, if you're sending someone to jail, right?
Right.
If you have the same, if you have, for example, to speak to my name, right? If you have cannabis in some states, it's the same amount of time as if you stole, like, I think it's like $400 or more or something like that.
Right.
Or as if you possess meth or armed burglary or armed assault.
Okay.
Low-level burglary or larceny instead of petty theft.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but you see what I mean, right? Possession of cannabis in some places just for medical use, it is like that. So when you're looking at laws or rules and stuff like that, you've got the same punishment for every crime. Everything is justified.
Oh, so you're talking about severity, right? Because you're thinking that well, from what you've heard about how God runs things, that everything is on the same level, basically. So
yeah,
your petty lie is equivalent to murder, which is equivalent to stealing from somebody, which is equivalent to saying a bad word. Okay, so
exactly.
Right, I get it. So you're basically saying that the severity, like, it's all across the board, and in that sense that
shrimp, I'm going to hell.
Right. Okay. So my response to that would be that according to us, that it's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. I sure wouldn't run things that way. At least if I was trying to be good. But the thing is that according to him, it's all on the same level. And there's two ways you can look at that. You can see, oh, it's because he's God and whatever he says goes, or it's because he's God, whatever he says goes, and the fact that the simple sins can actually lead to bigger complications, even if we don't think about it. Like, for instance, like what I've heard used before is that, even something simple like, okay, let's I don't want to bring this, I'm just gonna have to use it. But abortion, for instance, people say, whatever, you're just killing, you know, a baby. He didn't even get a chance to live yet or anything. So it shouldn't really matter because, you know, it's not really hurting too many people because that person, it's not the same as murder if the person already had a life and had friends and relationships and stuff. But the thing is, you still killed a potential life, right? And that person could have grown up to be someone like awesome or whatever, or even just a normal person, average everyday Joe.
They could have also grown up to be Hitler.
Yeah, well, yeah, you never know. Again, that's the caveat.
Or Justin Bieber.
So
Justin Bieber was almost aborted. That's what I'd agree with.
But like, again, that's the flip side of the argument. But again, just to repeat what I've heard, something like that, it's like even something that's like such a finite crime or finite sin can still have infinite consequences, because technically everything that we do, pretty much everything we do still kind of has infinite consequences upon the world around us, even small things.
Well, it's not as what I'm more specifically saying is the specific consequence, right? Yeah,
Okay.
Some people say that it's just a separation or something like that, but hell's never talked about in the Bible, okay? You can't actually find hell in the original text of the Bible. It's just not there. I've looked. I've searched out. It's not in the original text. And
so you don't accept it like when Jesus mentions hell, like in the New Testament?
That's the only reference. But before that,
or
they didn't believe
Revelation,
in heaven or hell. They believed in Sheol.
Well, just because it's not mentioned doesn't mean that it didn't exist back then.
Well, no, I've looked at the evolution of the ideas, and it came with the nihilism. When it became more nihilistic, this idea developed in the area. The idea of hell was in the area that first introduced it, you know, but it wasn't in any area before that when you look at the ideas. And so actually, if you're going by what the Hebrews believed, they believed in Sheol, which was a shared afterlife. There was no torture. But the Christian specific God, they do, for some reason, even though it's not biblical, believe that there's going to actually be this hell of infinite torture. You know,
it's a way to keep the sheep in line.
And
I just want
to. What?
Oh, go ahead. I didn't know. Okay.
Hell itself, the one mention that Jesus had, I believe it was like that, a dark place where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth or something like that, and that's the most we have. I am misquoting that, I know, but the weeping and gnashing.
There's someone in live chat that says I did not answer their question when I explained about the whole, you know, do you go to hell or whatnot, just simply for not believing. And I said yes, that basically that you do. I was just trying to explain at the time that it's more complicated than that. That it's the reason why that it's just about believing is because if you don't believe the thing happened, you can't technically accept the Christian contract, if you will. Because you don't even believe the contract exists, you're not even going to follow it or anything. So that's why. I was trying to explain the why about it. And he says I was dancing around the question. I'm not.
Well, getting back to that, I mean, that poses, I guess you could look at it as a morality question from my standpoint is, going off of that belief that some factions hold, you can have someone who lives a perfect life save for the belief in God. So they are kind to their neighbors, they are generous, they are giving, model fucking citizen, but does not believe in God. You can have a horrible person who breaks pretty much every tenet of the Ten Commandments, is not a godly person, for forgiveness on their deathbed. And, of course, that is the ultimate thing. Forgiveness is granted when asked for. genuinely.
Right.
And then
Okay.
that person gets to heaven, but the person who lived an otherwise pious life.
Right, but I think I've made it pretty clear before that it's not about being pious. That it's about, like I said, it doesn't matter how good you are, because you have to be able to, it's basically there's a requirement that you're supposed to have in order to actually get to heaven in the first place. Like, I know I find it confusing and stupid too, if I'm just being honest, but I'm just explaining it like it is. I don't want to. The last thing I want to do with my sort of theological position, if I want to have an intelligent conversation about these kind of things with other theists or even atheists, is basically misrepresent what Christianity is about. So I'm still going to use some of their apologetics or whatnot, because that's how I believe it works. I'm not saying it makes sense. I'm not saying I like it. I wouldn't even say that according to my value system, it's good, quote unquote. But I mean, like, it is what it is, right?
Well, what does
Like,
Edgar
I'm
have
just a
to say
theist.
on
I'm not a
that?
Christian. Oh yeah, Mr.
Yeah,
Intelligent Design.
Edgar, can we see you eat a
Hi.
pancake?
Good morning, Trill. Good morning to all of
I
you.
want to see you eat a pancake. My
Hello.
friend asked
Good
me to
morning
say
to all
that.
of you.
All right. Did you have anything to add to the particular conversation?
Well, your topic is very good because the title is "If God Were Proven to Exist, Would You Worship Him?" Well, my answer actually is yes or no. Yes and no. Okay, I will show you first the no. Okay, so if God were proven to exist, and this God has no concern, has no connection, has no relation, has no revelation to human being, I will never worship that God. Maybe we are too different. Maybe this God is the same like me, who probably had evolved. I mean, started his life from non-life. But I will answer yes. We'll have connection. We'll have a relation. We'll have concern with the human being. Okay, so I think it depends on how this God will go into deals with human being. For the Christian God, I think the reason why I worship the Christian God, because before I was born, there was already the Bible who told us about the history that this God, Jesus Christ, had come here into the earth to become human, to save and to help human beings to go to heaven. So I think he has the right to be worshipped. But if Jesus Christ did not do that, I will never worship him. That's my I think your topic is good, and that is my comment.
Wait a minute, you wouldn't worship him? But aren't you? What?
What are you talking
I
about?
thought you were Christian. I'm sorry.
Okay. I've dealt with enough. I was actually able to understand it. Short version. If it was the Christian God who did have that touch of humanity to him, yes, he would be worshipped. If it was the Islamic or Jewish God who did not have that touch of humanity, then no, he would not be worshipped by Edgar. Fair summation?
Jared, thank you. Yes. That's actually my first
Sorry, I
summation.
wasn't
Yeah.
listening.
Right.
Thank you for that.
I think Cyborg also made a really good point in the live chat about, because he's saying, why would you fear this God or whatnot? And he's saying, well, would you not fear a kid with a magnifying glass if you were an ant? And that is what it would be like. So of course you're going to have a healthy kind of fear of this sort of God. I mean, I don't know. I mean, sure, I don't think anybody should be forced to worship somebody out of fear, but I mean, I get why the fear is there. Like, it's a logical response to basically be a little bit wary of what this being can do, right?
Just because the ant with a magnifying glass is becoming common You do realize enough ants could take one of us down, right?
Yeah, army ants in the fucking rainforest, maybe. But I'm not gonna lay down on an ant hill and let a whole ant colony just empty into my butthole. I'm sorry, Kelsier, but I'm a giant and I could stomp on the ants before they killed me.
Yeah. And that's another good point, too, if you want to keep adding to the analogy.
Hey, you're supposed to worship me. Just start stomping on the hill.
Yeah, pretty much.
Screw you.
Well, and not just that. Then throw in the omniscient aspect to it, too.
Right.
It's not like you could plan a revolt against that motherfucker either.
No, you can't. Like, it'd be useless trying to do it. He would see it coming from a mile away.
But real, I think the biblical God never commanded every human being to worship Him. He did not command. He did not command people to worship or adore Him.
He didn't?
He did not.
What? Are you
That
sure?
comes down to interpretation.
No, I don't know.
Because the non-believers were smited. If that's not saying, love me or I will fuck you up, how else to say it?
Right.
I mean, no,
Like
he did not outright say the words, or I will kill you. But when you look at what he requested, what he got, and then the resultant actions,
Right.
looking into cause and effect.
Right. It's like
Cause and effect. Yes, he wants to be worshipped.
yeah.
No,
Like,
Jared.
Like,
Sorry. Jared, sorry. You were misinformed. I think the one who told you about the Bible and the teaching, they misinform you.
Edgar, I have read
yes.
15 different translations of it. And a couple translations of the Torah, and a translation of the Quran.
Let's use an analogy since we like analogies so much. Here. It's here. So say, like maybe you're some sort of soldier or whatever from the other side that's got captured by the enemy team or whatnot, and you're about to be interrogated. Now, you technically don't have to spill the beans or tell them anything, but if you don't, you're going to get tortured. So again, it's not like they're necessarily forcing you to do things against your will, but they're kind of forcing you to do things against your will unless you want, the opposite. In the same way, sure, you can say, God doesn't force you to worship Him. I guess you're right. He doesn't really, because otherwise I would not be a thing. But the thing is, even so, to worship God or forced to be a Christian or whatnot. But it's kind of like there's this constant kind of like, I guess, threat that kind of looms over you when you try to go against that, where it's like, if you don't worship God, you're going to go to hell. So again, you're not forced to, but it's like it kind of behooves you to. It's like there is kind of this, like, let's not ignore this element of like, do this or else. Like, there is definitely a fear element here.
I would like
and anybody
to say,
who denies it, I'd pretty much pick a fight with them around here.
I'd like to say to Snuffy about his. I'd like to say to Snuffy about his opening the closet and showing there is no monster argument. If you do that, then these creationists will have the equivalent of covering their eyes when you open the closet. If you're not careful about it.
Right.
If you're rude or if you're too upfront, like your God doesn't exist and this is why, then they probably won't listen.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have when I was hardcore Christian.
Right.
Now, Edgar, you said that caveat,
and Snuffy said
sort
that
of threat wasn't there in the Bible. So can you explain to me what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah and why?
Okay, before I explain to you the Sodom and Gomorrah, can I clarify you about how we Christian we were taught about worshiping and adoring God? Okay, because there are many groups in the world today who are misinforming many people. I think the reason why most of you did not believe in God right now, because you were misinformed. Because some people who are teaching the Bible, they teach the Bible with full of holes. And when you found that hole, then you use logic. And after you found that those holes are illogical, you try to go out to the Christian teaching. But the Bible has no hole. It is perfectly well and logical. I think you were misinformed. Okay, I show you why. Okay, if you are going to study the Bible in the Old Testament, God always said that He said that I am that I am. Okay, and the Bible also said that God is good, and the Bible also said that God is life. Okay, so I will give you three points. Okay, three. God is good.
You know,
God is life. Wait. God is existence. Okay, as He said, I am that I
No,
am.
Shrek is good. Shrek is life.
you know, you can make assertions like that all you want. You really can. But I'm just going to say this. This is also the person that said, go into this village and kill every man and child, every piece of chattel,
Okay.
every single one.
Just to let you know, don't worry, I'm gonna be back. I just need to use the washroom, so if you guys can behave in here, that'd be nice. I'll be back.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. They're just trying to talk over each other. You can still keep going. We have a lot of viewers now. Don't stop.
So Edgar, you wanted to say that I was misinformed, but let me give you a little history of my personal experience. The reason why I was able to have the opportunity to read as many different versions of the Christian Bible and the other texts that I did is because I used to spend every summer growing up with my paternal grandfather, ordained Lutheran minister, who was also a professor of theology and religious studies. So any text that I was curious about, he was more than happy to provide me. And if I had any questions, be to fill me in. And I was coming up with a number of these questions about the two differing people and the two different styles and the different results. And as both a pastor and also a professor, he couldn't really answer it because in the text, in what is taught by the religion, the only answer is you must worship and love God and take Him into your life.
No, yeah, I understand it fully. It was written in the Bible about that word, but you don't know about the essence why God had commanded those words. Okay, let's go back again to Adam and Eve. Okay, if you are the creator and you are the existence, you are the one who caused existence. Exist universe, you exist everything, and now you exist the human being. If you are the creator, are you going to let your existence to become non-existent? Of course no, since you are the existence. So your nature is existent. So when God created a human being, God's goal is that human being will not go into become non-existent.
Okay, I'm
Meaning,
back. Hopefully you guys were doing okay.
Human being must not die. Human being, that is the first goal of God when He created a human being.
But you're just asserting that they are this way. The Bible just asserts that they are this way.
What do you mean?
All of the actions in the Bible say that they're not.
Please, I am not yet finished. Okay, I will show you why God wants us to be watched. I'm in the middle. I will give you time. Okay, please. I will explain to you why you were wrong, why you are misinformed in every group that you had come. Okay.
Then fucking do it.
Oh yeah, I don't stop me in the middle, please. I will give you time.
Stop your pre-bragging and do it.
Okay.
I want to see it.
Okay. Okay. To be fair, because I am the moderator here. Moderator is quote unquote God at this hangout. So, Mr. Intelligent Design, I'll let you give a chance to actually present that case, but if you're just going to kind of ramble on into a tangent, I'm afraid that I'm going to give Kelsier more of a priority. So go ahead and present your case.
Okay,
but
so
please try to keep it not so long-winded, because I find that you go off on a tangent. I don't know if you mean to do that, but just try and watch yourself.
You do.
Okay, sorry, Trill. Okay, so when the human being was given a free will to choose, God's hope was human being will going to use life, because life is equivalent to existence. But when human being choose death, God was angry. So, but God is also the God of love and God of hope, and God is good. So God told
your
human being
argument is that an omniscient being is
no.
Hang on. Let him finish.
Repeat once more again. Can you repeat again? What did you say, please?
Yeah,
What did you say?
Can you say it again?
So what you just said was an omniscient being was surprised by something. Someone that knows everything that's going to happen is surprised. I have huge questions about this.
Yeah.
Yes, that you are also misinformed about the God knowing, all knowing, all. You are also misinformed about that. You see, you have two misconception. You are misinformed. You believe that God is all knowing. You believe that God is all powerful when dealing with human beings.
No, I don't believe this. This is the claim that's made by a lot of different Christians.
So the different Christian that you are looking at, that you are saying about, are the one who taught you the wrong Christianity. That's why you were misinformed.
All right, which denomination are you, Edgar?
Does he even have one? Oh, okay.
Pardon, I didn't get to hear that.
He's a Baptist.
I'm a fundamental Baptist.
A fundamental Baptist. Okay. Because your other forms of Baptists, your Lutherans, all of them, you are the first. God is not omniscient. That is not omnipotent. That is not all-knowing and all-seeing. You are the first one I have ever heard say that. And this is from and this is from 20 plus years of dealing with theists. 20 plus years of asking these questions, and you are the first one to say that God is not all-knowing and all-powerful.
Yeah.
No, I didn't say that, Jared. I didn't say that. What I said is that when dealing with human being, God doesn't use his power. But he is all-knowing. He can know the cell. He can know electron. He can know particle. He can know your future if he would like to. But he doesn't want to. You see, the big difference is that he doesn't want to, but he doesn't want to know what you are going to say in the coming 10 minutes. No, because you are free. You are free to move. You are free to think. How can God go to your mind if you are free?
So Ed, where's that book?
You see, you are really misinformed. You are really misinformed.
Yeah,
God.
The scriptures say that God knew you before you were born. So
I want you to understand something. Intelligent design. You just took both sides on an issue. In 5 minutes.
You were misinformed. You are totally misinformed about Christianity and Christian teaching. It's very sad.
The man who was in this hangout saying that he grew up, he grew up with correct me if I'm wrong. He grew up with a father with every version of the Bible imaginable, is misinformed about Christianity. Wow. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jared.
No, it wasn't my father. It was my grandfather. So
okay, yes.
an even older generation that was much more devout than my parents or my own. Because I'm only over 30, and like I said, I've been asking these questions of theists for over 20 years. Over 20 years, over 2/3 of my life, I've been asking these questions. And you are the first one to actually say that God was not powerful when it comes to humans.
Wait, hold on. Are you sincere in this?
Yes, yes.
I'm sensing some sarcasm. I'm sensing some sarcasm on Jared's part. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Oh man.
No. Okay, yes, I am from New England. Yes, sarcasm is a second language to mine that comes out naturally. But I kid you not, what Edgar said was humans, God was not all-knowing and all-powerful. Once free will was given, but if God is omniscient, if he's omnipotent, how the fuck could that happen?
Someone can make a soundbite of that.
Can I explain further? Okay. Can I
No,
you need more detail? Okay. Because you are misinformed. Okay. You
again with the misinformed.
This deserves an edited video in of itself.
Okay, I will give you more detail and example. Okay. Well, God knows everything. God knows everything, but he doesn't want to know the human thought because human has a freedom. Of course, it is logical.
Oh, so he knows, but he doesn't want to know. Okay.
He wants to know. Okay, I will give you an example of what? He wants to know.
You said he didn't want to know.
I will give an
No. Whoa. The Code G, man. You just said a while ago that he wants to know, but he doesn't want to know. So wait.
Hold on. I think what Edgar is trying to say is that is that God, God ignores it. You know what I mean? It comes into his head, but he ignores it. Like, you know what I mean? What I mean? You know, when you're just sitting there, you're thinking about something, but you don't want to think about it. You say, no, ignore it. It's that God, maybe.
But if God's like perfect, why would that even be a problem?
I don't know. Ask Edgar. I'm just here for a ride.
Please, can you give me time to give an example? I will give you an example because one example will going to clear your mind. Okay. Okay, I will give you like the man like Moses.
Okay, let's go.
The man like Judas Iscariot. Okay, I will give you 3 persons. Okay, first person is Moses, or let us use David, King David. So when God would like to change the course of history, he choose a person, individual person. So whenever God chooses a person, he enters into the mind's person, meaning he knows the future of the person. He totally know that person. But there are some cases that God doesn't want to know doesn't want to know the mind of the person, like Judas Iscariot.
He plays favorites. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like Moses. Moses was used to change the course of history. David was used to change the course of history, and Judas Iscariot also was used to change the history. So, in other words,
what you're saying is that God used Judas to betray his own son because salvation.
He did not use it. He did not use Judas. He did not use Judas.
You just said he. Okay, did he not?
But you said that God no.
Because
Jesus even knew he was going to be betrayed. He even knew who was going to do it. So if Jesus knew, how would God not know
something that is the Bible Jesus knew?
Remember, if you have a friend who is backbiting you, you know that even though you are not God. You see, even though you are not God, you can know your friend who will backbite you, who will betray you. You can know that.
I think we're going on a little bit of a tangent here. What are we even talking about anymore? Like, shoot, man, this is supposed to be about if God was proven to exist, would you worship him? Not if God
what the heck is
doesn't know them at the same time. What the heck, guys? Seriously. Christianicus, you just joined. Did you have anything to say?
Yes, and I'm very confused.
Yes, you should be. So, Christianicus, can God know something but choose not to know?
I mean, all I came
No,
out hearing, well,
no.
apparently Judas was chosen and then was not used or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we went off on a tangent. That's what happened.
No, Judas Iscariot was not chosen. Okay, he was not chosen
for
by
what?
God. He was
I
not
mean-
chosen.
For what?
Chosen by God to betray Jesus Christ. The
Well-
betrayal
This
is
isn't the
was
topic.
part of the plan.
This isn't the topic.
Can we? Yeah, let's. Because I would love to tackle that, but let's please stay on the topic for.
Are we
the rest
done?
of the-
Can we go back to the topic now?
Probably
Yes?
not.
Oh. Look, but basically to bring it full circle, if God were proven to exist, would you worship him? I think it's an important question because we see a lot of like atheists in that here that sure they don't believe that God exists and all that kind of stuff. But even if they were shown evidence, there's a lot of them on the outside chat that have made it quite apparent that they would not.
What would you constitute as worshiping God? And we're talking about the God of the Bible, right?
Right.
Okay.
Well, following his ways, you know, being a Christian or whatnot.
Or being a Jew, maybe.
That's gonna make things more complicated, man. I know your position, but it's like, don't make it even more complex than it already is.
What's his position?
Oh man.
I stand with Jews. I'm one of the white Jew guys. I'm a Jew tile, they call me. J.D. Kane calls me a Jew tile, if that tells you what I am. But anyway, no, so worshiping would be keeping his ways. Okay, that's
Right.
what I was.
That kind of thing. Sure. Yeah, we'll go with that. Midnight, you never actually... What is your specific answer to the question? Maybe we can try and get back on topic since we have quite a bit of people watching now. And Edgar kind of threw us on a tangent.
Yeah, he does that. Anyways, so what was the question again? Like, if you repeat the question just for clarification.
If God were proven to exist, would you worship him?
Now we're talking about the God of the Bible, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, if he were proven to exist, I'd have a lot of questions before I would even consider worshiping him.
Understood. Okay. Yeah, and I think that's fair.
Would you keep his ways?
After all my questions were answered satisfactorily, maybe I'll consider it. And if he doesn't like that, oh well. You know, I hear hell is nice this time of year.
So what I basically hear is that a lot of you guys would have my position if it wasn't for your atheism.
Are we thinking about the same Job? Sorry, I've just got sidetracked by the side conversation I was having.
Okay, I was just saying that if it wasn't for the fact that some of you guys truly don't believe God exists or you don't have enough evidence for it or whatever, it seems like a lot of you guys would actually have my position, which is interesting.
What is that position?
I'm a misotheist.
I consider myself agnostic atheist, but...
So basically the position is that I do accept that the Christian God exists or whatnot, but I don't actively try and follow his ways. I'm not a Christian. I actually don't really agree with his morality. With a lot of atheists that bring up the whole, the torturing of people and is it moral to do this or not? I'm kind of right there with them, but technically, it would be moral if God made it moral, but I don't agree with his morals still. This is how I view things. It's like you have objective morality, which is above all of us, but we each all have our individual, subjective, values.
But wait,
and there might be some that will line up with the objective morality of God, and there's some that don't. But we're all individuals, we're all people.
If there's an objective morality, why would we have our own? I don't know. It's just
I can explain that, sure. If there's an objective morality, why would we have our own values in that? It's because we want to do things contrary to what God wants. That's why. So it actually makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of things I want to do that are contrary to what God wants, and a lot of morals and stuff I don't agree with. All it takes is not agreeing with something, and you form your own value systems. That's why we have different views in politics and stuff. People don't get along on the same page all the time.
Fornication is a lot of fun.
Right. See? So there's a lot of different things. So you can easily still have an objective morality that I think overarches all of us, but
Okay.
everybody still has their own individual value systems. I understand
So
that.
why do you believe that the God of the Bible exists, or whatever you said before? I'm sorry if I misrepresented you.
I believe the Bible exists because I haven't seen a lot of evidence to the contrary. There's lots of supernatural experiences people have that line up with what the Bible says as far as different details about them. And I feel it's very, I feel like it's a big stretch to say that the universe can basically just, kind of make itself like on a whim. Like there's no God or ever involved at all.
Who says it was a whim? You're discounting physical necessity.
No, I'm not.
Like,
You
the
can still
universe
have your
has to
Big
be-
Bang or whatever. Doesn't mean
Well, yeah,
that, God didn't set it off or whatever. I'm not discounting any of that. I mean, sure, I don't know too much about cosmology, so I'm not just going to say too much about whether it happened or didn't happen. I mean, I don't like to sound like a young earther for that kind of thing. But, I still believe in like stuff like evolution and that. God could have easily used that to create the diversity of life we have here today. So, yeah, it doesn't go against science, in my opinion.
There's something I noticed in a lot of certain schools of Christian thought that believe that the world is here to deceive us. I mean, it's like an instant no-win situation. So when your eyes and ears and all your senses show you that life evolves, the first thing you can always bring up to is well, the earth, the reality is here to deceive us. The flesh is evil. Reality is, and it's like, well, this is all we have.
Well, yeah, it's sorry to interrupt you, but it's to me, to me, it seems like when somebody says reality is here to deceive us, they're basically saying, well, I'm right, you can't prove me wrong, because how in the hell are you going to tackle a statement like that? Trust me, I've had this conversation. Exactly, I have this conversation today. With someone else. He's saying, well, God could make it seem like the universe is 13.8 billion years, or maybe Satan could make it seem like that. But then the question you're gonna ask, okay, one, why would God deceive us if He loves us? Or two, why would He allow Satan to deceive us?
Right. And I think
scenarios.
I think the important thing to keep in mind is that if you're going to go with the young Earth way, where it's like all these evolutionary fossils are put there to deceive us and all this is fake, that makes your God seem even worse.
Yeah,
you should probably go accept the evolution fact, because you know what? If you're trying to paint your God up to be this person who's worthy of worship and everything in that, then he probably shouldn't be a God that just lets Satan screw with people like that, to the extent where we have a whole scientific theory that says something else contrary to what is actually true, and it doesn't seem like what's actually true is true. Like, that's really
another excuse me. Another thing that gets me, is another thing that gets me is that their God seems to have the most highest standard ever. So that means you can never reach it. Therefore, everybody is fucked. All these people think, oh, God loves me, I'm going to heaven. Well, no. How the hell can you go to heaven if his standard is so high, you'll never be able to meet it?
No, well, here's the thing. No, it's actually not quite like that, at least from my experience. It's like his standard's really high, you can't reach it, and that's why you have the whole Christian contract thing in the first place. And yes, I'm going to keep calling it a Christian contract. That's what it is. Basically, you accept Jesus into your heart, your personal Lord and Savior, like I did at 5. I used to be a Christian, by the way. And then when you do and when you do that kind of thing, you have to realize that sure, you're still not going to ever reach his perfect standard, but it doesn't matter because you're covered. So as long as you still try and follow his ways like properly, and you still think that what is sin is sin,
so wait,
then you're pretty much okay.
If it's standard, it's so high, but you said, okay, Jesus, you know what? My standard is so high, but they'll never be able to reach it. So so I want you to be their advocate, or so
what are you talking about?
Hang on, sorry, I'm trying to. You said that even though God's standard is so high, he still, there's a contract with Jesus. As long as you believe in Jesus, you'll be saved, and
as long as you honor that contract.
Reach it.
As long as you honor that contract.
Okay, so how?
Well, here's the thing. His standard is different from the contract. Like, because here's the thing. You're never going to not sin because everybody's not perfect. But the contract, in my opinion, is that you try your best not to, and you admit when you're wrong, and you repent and stuff when you do mess up.
Okay, and what?
It's not a hard contract. There are checks and balances, but there is that inherent commitment that has to be made.
Right. And if you're not committed to God, then you're not.
How if his standard is so high, how are you supposed to please him? Like, you know what I mean? There's people who have standards that you
on your knees midnight.
You're supposed to please him by trying to reach.
You're
supposed to please him by trying your best to, I guess, reach that standard. Even though you'll never will, but you're still trying your best to still do it and spread the gospel and stuff.
That's another thing about Christianity. They say you can't do it. God says throughout the Torah, you can do it. That's why it's like written on your heart. You don't even need the book. He's saying you can be a good righteous human being. And Christianity comes along and says, you'll never achieve it. You're never perfect like God. Well, duh, I'm not God. Next. It's much more positive. You can be a good human being. You can be, despite what the Christian message says, I think. That's the first half of that Bible says it.
But you just admitted that you can't be perfect, so.
Well, perfect is when you miss the mark, or when you get knocked down, you get up. That's the definition of a righteous man in Judaism. When you screw up, you make good on it and you move on with your life. It doesn't hang on to you and make you an evil, dirty person. It doesn't prove that you're not God and not perfect and you can't dwell in heaven. Well, you're on earth, so deal with it, You can be a good person, and the thing is if you get knocked down, you get back up and you keep going. And it's like Rocky. He fought with his heart. That's kind of like life. If you do that, man, that shows strength and righteousness. And I don't like that message that you can't be a good person. Everybody can be a good person.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, it just depends.
Just because you don't follow God, you don't believe in Jesus Christ, that somehow means that your soul isn't saved. I'm like, okay, well, so what you're telling me is that you could be a piece of shit person, but as long as you believe in God, you're safe.
That's not.
No.
Yeah, that's not
no. That's not what it is. I know a lot of people can misrepresent it like that, but no.
No, I mean, it just because it just seems like there's a lot of people who do who use Christianity as evil to do evil things and then and then go around and say,
well,
oh,
here's
God
the thing.
will forgive me.
No. Here's the thing, though. Some people might do that. Granted, I don't know everybody's heart or brain or whatever, but there are some people that when they do their things where they're basically acting like a douche, they half the time don't even know that they're acting like a douche. You're thinking this is God's work. This is, like those fundamentalists.
Yeah, so they abuse the hell out of it.
Some of them actually think that's what they ought to do. That they ought to actually be a douche to everybody who's not a believer or whatnot. That's what they think. A lot of times they think they're actually doing God's work. That they've gotten themselves in a certain brain mode where like, no, I'm not being a jerk. This is what God wants me to do. And if they're not purposely trying to use it and abuse their power to think, they're just doing God's work, then they're not actually taking advantage of the contract. They're filling it out to the best of their ability. They think that's what they're supposed to do. Like someone like G-Man, for instance. Let's take somebody in the community we can all relate to. Now, G-Man, you could say, oh, he's got quite the ego on him. Here he is, basically being hypocritical and stuff, and he's basically trying to pwn the atheists and all that. And I'll admit that maybe he does have a bit of an ego on him. Maybe there are some things where he should tone stuff down. But there's also a possibility, there's also a possibility that maybe he's just following God to the best of his ability. Maybe he feels that's how God wants him to act. That's how he feels God wants him to do. That's what he feels called to do. So therefore, that's why he acts like that. Hopefully that makes sense.
G-Man is a kind of childish kind of thing. I think he has, he's got it into his head that your mind should be like that of a child.
Right.
He does that very well.
Yeah, well, maybe again, we don't know. Like, again, I'm not here. This is not me justifying G-Man's action, saying we should all be good buddies with G-Man. I'm just saying maybe from his perspective, he's doing the right thing. That's what I'm trying to say.
I'll second that.
Right.
I just want to jump in here to say that, well, the God that's described in the Bible, I don't think I could worship such a God. I think my standards are far beyond that.
Okay.
To me, what I've read and what I've seen from in the Bible,
Right.
it just doesn't appear to me that this is a God of any kind. If, a jealous God, a vindictive God, I can't see that as being all good. It doesn't make sense to me at all. But maybe, if God were real, if he, if somehow, that was shown to me to be real, he would be able to explain these things to me. But as it sits, as I see that's what's written in the Bible, no, I could never worship such a God. I would believe if it was shown to be true.
Right.
I would have no choice but to believe it. But I worship it. I don't think I could, not as it's perceived in the Bible, at least.
Right. Okay.
So what is
Hello.
what is the end goal?
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. We got someone new in here. I wanted to see what his opinion was. Was there anything you wanted to add, Michael? Then I'll let you go.
Hello. How's everybody doing?
Okay. So how do you answer the question? Then I'll let the other person who's trying to speak go.
That depends on which God are we talking about here. Are we talking about the God of the Bible?
God of the Bible. Yeah, Christian God.
Then no, I would not worship him because it's an absurd level of worship. He expects you to be doing it 24/7 without any rest, without any break. Who requires that sort of thing? That's just ridiculous right there.
Okay. So you can go next.
Oh, I just want to ask what is the purpose of worship? Because maybe that'll kind of help get at whether or not we ought to worship. Because if we don't really know for what purpose we're worshiping a God, then how are we supposed to know whether we are going to worship a God or not?
Typically, when it's with usually when a God.
I was going to say Trill covered it earlier. Is like keeping his ways was one thing we could agree on was like
right.
Basically like the 10 Commandments kind of a thing would be a form of that would be one way we could consider worship.
But why? Why would we do it? What's the purpose? That's the question.
No, can I answer that question? This one is very hard for you if you're not a Christian. Can I answer that? If you're not a Christian, there will be no answer. I will answer that for a Christian perspective. The reason why God wants him to be worshipped and be adored by human being, because God wants us to remind us that God is the God of existence. The more we worship the God of existence, the more we love our existence. Because if you don't use it, in other words, God is the God of life. The more you worship the God of life, the more you nurture your life. If you don't do that, then you are choosing death. That's the reason why God wants us to worship him. In other words, it reminds us always that God is the God of life and we have life, so we cherish our life. That is the actual logical answer from Christian.
I actually somewhat agree with that. Basically, the purpose of worship would be to sort of recognize what God is,
why not
and sort of bring ourselves closer to God through that kind of meditation.
Why not just enjoy your life? Try to be appreciative of what you have when you have it. What's with all this worship nonsense?
Well, I've tried explaining to Ouchie before that. See, I'm not looking for this grand pursuit of some grandiose whatever. I want to enjoy my life. There's certain specific things I want to do and get accomplished, and that's good enough for me. Maybe it's just not good enough for some other people, but yeah, I kind of second what Michael says.
Personally, I don't think that would be satisfactory, because obviously it's not satisfactory. Otherwise, we would be happy with dying right now. But
I think that's an understanding of what I meant. There's certain things that you want to get accomplished. Like you set goals for yourself, and then when you do them, then it is okay to die right then and now. Not right now. I haven't done them yet.
Well, I don't know if you can really say that, because I mean, how do you really know that you'll be satisfied once you've achieved those goals?
How could anybody?
Does that stop you from doing them? Is it like, should I just give up now?
I kind of look at it like this. I'm not a religious person. I never really have been. I mean, I was raised Lutheran, but you know, we went to Sunday school and church and all that stuff. But I never believed in the stuff as far as I remember back. But from my view, the cells in my body have made a journey, an unbroken chain from the very first living organism all the way to me. That to me is just extraordinary. I mean, you think about that. The very first living thing on this planet, there's an unbroken chain between me and that. And that's, you know, 3 point some billion years ago through time. And there's an unbroken chain from generation to generation to generation over the time. And I'm part of that. That to me is extraordinary. That just blows my mind. I mean, I just, you know, can't really explain it any more than that.
I gotta one up you, Scott. Think about it. We get the Big Bang. The first thing out of it's like super heavy electromagnetic radiation before particles had mass. These like super heavy light beams. Light beams became conscious or conscious. Light, you know, inanimate, you know, matter. This energy, whatever, became conscious. And it took, you know, 15, whatever, 13 billion years, whatever. I don't know. I just had to. Go ahead, dude.
Sure, just go one up me. Yep.
I think that beats the alternative, which is, you know, you're supposed to be spending your entire eternity from birth to death worshiping me for my capriciousness. And oh, by the way, after you die, you're going to be spending another eternity after that worshiping me anyhow. I mean, what the hell?
Right.
We're talking about a person here who obviously has something wrong with them in their head. And we're supposed to be worshiping that? What is up?
Well, here's that's kind of where I agree, and I feel like that's another important thing to make is that this life, you know, here on this planet, you know, is limited, no matter what belief you have. So even if you're an atheist, you still have to admit that the life, at least in this realm, the physical, is limited. And in order to dedicate your entire life to basically following God, basically, you know, avoiding a whole bunch of, you know, fun things, because that's what you end up having to do, avoid a whole bunch of fun things. You get to see other people around you experiencing a bunch of stuff that you never get to do. And meanwhile, here you are stuck kind of in your miserable ways. And people are supposed to be satisfied with that?
Now, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but screw you. I'm going to become a Cymac.
Oh, what? I don't understand the reference.
Oh, come on. I'm not the only Dune fan in here.
I didn't get it either.
That's full space.
Is that the world of spice?
Yes.
Okay.
When you go back into the history of Dune, the original people who took over the Earth prior to Ominous, the Evermind, the world and humanity was lorded over by I believe it was half a dozen, 6 individuals who removed their brains from their bodies and installed them into robots, giving themselves
Quatlus that the newcomers will need to be destroyed.
Quatlus, now that
yeah, we have those creatures too. That's my goal.
That would be a boring existence right there. Just give me a nice fulfilling life and I'll be able to set my death with dignity. Thank you very much.
So if I could say something. So I understand Thaddeus doesn't feel like he needs like anything greater, but what I don't understand is if there is this greater perfect good, why wouldn't you want to come closer to it?
Where do I even start? Just because it's the greatest possible good does not mean that we as human beings would necessarily want to have it. I mean, take a look at the situation with Landru, if we're
Right.
referencing science fiction here. I mean, is this really something we want?
Well, by good, I definitionally mean something that's desirable.
It's the same situation. Just because it's desirable doesn't mean it's desirable in all circumstances and all times. Sometimes you got.
That's the idea, though. I mean, obviously, arguing for that's a different question.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I never found the pursuit of like theological knowledge and stuff to be that stimulating back when I was a Christian and that. So I have to disagree that, you know, that would be like the most awesome thing to pursue. Because there's other things that are way more interesting to me. Not everybody has the same personality. So
yeah, but so the idea is that God is infinite. So he's perfect in infinite ways. So even if you have different interests, like
right.
we were talking before about how, you know, I have an argument for why people that like to seek knowledge would want to seek God. And then I also made a different argument for people that would want to seek art. The idea is that God contains all of the perfections together within him infinitely. And by seeking him, ultimately,
well,
you're trying to do that.
Well, let's take it to the art thing. What define perfection, for example? I mean, everybody has a different idea of what art is. Something I learned in art class when I took it is that everybody has a different idea of what art is. Someone took a cross of Jesus Christ and soaked it in urine. He called that art. I mean, is that perfect, or is that perfect for him?
So perfection is simply.
All I'm saying is that perfection is logically impossible.
Perfection is just any particular thing fully actualized. That's all that it is.
Okay.
So like,
okay.
for example, a perfect circle is one that is actually fully a circle. If it has some squiggly lines on the side, it's not a perfect circle.
Okay. Hang on. Multiple personality. You just joined. Did you want to say something?
No, I'm just listening to the flow of the conversation. Thanks.
Oh, because I thought you had your opinion on it earlier, but you weren't online when you said it.
Yeah. Well, I'll jump in the flow of the conversation because I kind of like what
I was going to say, I'm only going to run this for like another half hour because somebody else wants to do a hangout with this public access Great Debate community channel. So if you wanted to say it, you might want to say it now.
Don't be shy. We won't bite. Honest.
Please.
Yeah. Bunch of other God haters in here. Just kidding. Might as well say it.
That is so true. So hold on, just so I can be clear, what's the topic again?
If God were proven to exist, would you worship him?
And like I said earlier, I told you earlier, if we're talking about the God of the Bible, the one that ordered the Amalekites' destruction, the infants to be killed, engaged to be stoned, that one I don't think I would worship. But if there was, if that was some perversion of God and the God that happened to be real, happened to be one that is what I would consider to be perfect, then yes, I think I would worship him. But it would have to be a God that I could judge to be moral, not one that I'm judging to be immoral, if that even makes sense.
That makes perfect sense to me. But why would such a God require worship in the first place? That's the thing right there.
Well, that comes back to another episode of Star Trek with Apollo. He had an organ in his body that he needed worship to live by. Basically, that was it.
Yeah.
Maybe so this one's the same thing. Who knows?
all of the Christian saints have said that God himself is not really needing of worship because they held that God is immutable and can't be changed by people. It was ultimately for our own benefit, is what they would say.
Yes. How do we benefit from worshiping such a God? I mean, worshiping it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without pause or break. How do we benefit from such a thing?
Well,
So-
if you break down the universal laws that apply to human beings and not just Jews or priests or whatnot in the Old Testament, if you will, the Torah, it's breaking down to 7 categories. You don't murder, you don't steal, you don't have sex with your children or your parents, your brothers or sisters. You're kind to animals, and if you do eat them, it has to be in the most humane way possible. You don't you don't do idolatry, that sort of thing. You don't worship anything in creation, and you set up fair and balanced courts of justice, keep the peace. It's very secular when you look at it. I mean, couldn't a better, more harmonious society benefit from those laws?
No, because it's impossible to have a perfect law in place that covers all the circumstances. I mean, let's take one for "Thou shalt not kill." We have 2 men who stand accused of killing someone. Okay, according to that Bible verse, those 2 men must be put to death. But before we start stoning them, let's consider the circumstances. The first guy killed the other person and completely, totally accidentally. He couldn't prevent it. It couldn't be stopped. It couldn't be seen. And the second guy kills another person out of self-defense. So do you really want to be...
Interpretation, it's actually don't murder. But
Yeah.
I guess we're not gonna.
And the
there, are
Torah
we?
actually covers accidental killing. If a guy pulls an axe back and the axe head comes off and kills a guy, the Torah not only says he's not guilty, but gives him a city of refuge to go to where he can't be lynched by the family.
Why do you even need that at all? I mean, he didn't do it...
Because people can still get mad after you axe their flipping
father,
Yeah.
son.
Well, accidents happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean you won't get mad. There's lots
Yeah,
of
but
accidents that happen that result in death. Doesn't mean that you wouldn't want to have that person's head, because people are getting angry like that and emotional.
But just imagine if you made a mistake and had an accident with your car and hit somebody and unfortunately killed them. Now you
Right.
have to be sent away to another country because the family may kill you.
Well, you never know, because some families could be kind of messed up.
You don't have to go. You can go wherever you want, but the Torah does provide protection.
Yeah, just in case the people would get mad.
And the accidental killing is not murder, or the self-defense is not murder. There's an old Hebrew adage: if someone's coming to kill you, do the right thing and kill him first.
It's
That's not
not.
murder.
It's not murder. It's self-defense. I mean, shoot, we even have a law for that right now on certain things that are self-defense.
Well, I would still consider it to be murder, but a justified killing, or it's justified, because you can kill somebody. We're talking about the difference between something that's unjustified versus justified. A justified killing would be someone who is trying to kill you, but then if self-defense would be something we'd say is justified. That person, even though he did commit this heinous act, he was justified in doing it.
The ribeye is justified killing if you do it right.
Red eye?
A ribeye, a steak,
Oh,
a delicious, juicy, tender, well-cooked steak is
but
justified.
no, actually, that's not murder because it's already dead.
Oh yeah, true. And that's actually one of the laws: is don't eat the flesh torn from a living animal. That means that the people who were given this law were 3 years away from Neanderthal and had to be told. Sorry, had to be told not to do it. Okay, I'll shut up now.
Well, there's some things that you don't necessarily need to be passed down from on high. Like you just mentioned, a perfect example right there is don't eat the flesh off of a living animal. I mean, how are you supposed to do that? That's just ridiculous.
You have to kill it first. It's when in Genesis 9,
Right.
when animals have souls. You have to remove the blood from the animal and do it in the most humane way possible.
Kosher, yeah.
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 Right. So
You're kosher butcher.
right. So
It's good steak.
okay. So I guess to kind of bring it back a little more. I don't want to say full circle, but just kind of get to the meat of it. If God were proven to exist. Yes. But if God were proven to exist, would you worship him? And a lot of you guys said no. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, 'cause I think some of you might have had the answer, but how much of it has to do with the fact that you guys, let's be honest here. I know you don't like it when the theists say this crap. I don't like it either. is even more annoying as a misotheist. But how much of you guys kind of just want to sin? I mean, like,
You would have to
let's
first
be honest.
You'd first have
Because I do.
You would first have to define what is sin before I could even.
No, not really. Because in the Bible, there's a lot of things that makes it clear what's sin. I think it's fun. I'm just kidding. But
well, I would have to say that's my desire not to have to worship something that may or may not exist, has nothing to do with quote unquote sin. It's just, it's kind of like it's my life and I'll live it as I please. Thank you very much.
Right.
No,
so
yes,
again, when
I don't think I don't not believe in a God just because I want to sin.
No.
To me, I would love for there to be a God. It would explain so many things, and if there were a God, and I could somehow communicate with this God, he could explain things to me that I have questions about, and I would love that. That would be the most important thing in my life ever discovered. And I don't not believe in a God just because I want to sin. That's just, to me, that's just ridiculous.
No, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you did believe in God, would you worship him? And it seems like the answer is a resounding no from a lot of you.
Yeah, not the God described in the Bible, at least.
Right.
I think I have a higher standard for a God that I would believe in.
Okay.
I don't, it to me, the way it's described, the way God's described in the Bible is just a horrible, horrible thing, especially in the Old Testament. I mean, no, I don't think anyone can really disagree with that. Some of the commandments that he gave were just deceitful, even by
I mean, the way
by an atheist low standards.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, the way
like go kill your
Edgar could.
But the way I see it though is, well, first of all, I mean, just to answer that question or whatnot, there's so many ways of looking at it. And again, the Bible doesn't make it very clear which one's the correct one. But maybe those people needed to be killed because they'd grow up to be like really, really bad people. Like they'd be like one of the worst tribes out there.
That was one of the points.
Or maybe they were the Nephilim, or however you want to interpret it. So there's many different.
As Ricky Ricardo would say, he would have a lot of splaining to do before I would worship him.
I would have to agree that I would not worship such a God, and even if he had some sort of grand plan, grand vision, and he could see something that I could not, he has to let people make their own decisions and their own mistakes. That's kind of like being a parent,
Yeah, and if he were real, I'm sure he would be able to explain all that in a microsecond to me too. Communicate that directly to my brain. And now if he was able to do that, and I could if he could do that, he could make me understand why he did these things, then yeah, possibly. But from my understanding of what I've read in the Bible and things I've heard other Christians say, in fact, as it stands, no, I could not worship the God from the Bible.
It's funny because most Christians, when you ask them about objective morals, and if they are objective morals, they'll say something like killing infant children during the time of war is always wrong. And, most people are like, yeah, that's always wrong, But then they kind of shift over to the Bible, and it's like, well, it could be wrong, but, those kids could have grown up to be horrible people. That's pretty bad.
Yeah,
that's
God can see the future, obviously, so he knows these things, and he knows those children needed to die. But then you think that he made other people kill these children, and how did that affect those people that had to go and kill those children? I mean, to me, that's just abominable.
This God did show up and speak to 3 million people. He did make the sea part. He did bring 10 plagues. He's shown miracles. He actually showed up, this God did. So
are we assuming all that actually happens?
Yeah,
in context of the story.
In the context in the Bible, it says that, but did that really happen?
Right, in the context of the story. So you have a God who showed up and was just, and did do what he wanted to do, and got them free. He proved himself already. So if he said, this nation is disgusting, it's sick, it needs to be wiped out, can you really say it's unjust at that point?
Yes, yes, I can say killing infants during the time of war is
We're getting
unjust.
echo.
Yeah. Yeah, we're getting a little bit of an echo. We're getting a little bit of an echo. We're getting a little bit of an echo. I don't know who that is, but maybe if you can mute if you're not talking. So, yeah. Okay, I don't know who it was, but I mean, the conversation can carry on. Just be careful.
So could you, if this guy showed up and did these miracles and proved himself real, and he said to you, by his judgment, he saved you from catastrophe, and he said these people over here need to go. You can negotiate with these people, these people, these people, these people, these people. You can negotiate with them, but these people need to go. You wouldn't say that was you would say that was an unjust killing. You wouldn't take God's word for that.
Yeah, that sums up my thoughts right there.
Yeah, if God commanded me to kill children, and then and if I decided not to do it and went to hell for that, I would go to hell happily, because I would consider myself to be more moral than God.
Well, just to let you know, the Israelites did the same thing and didn't do it.
That's what I said. How it affects the people that had to do the killing too. I mean, it's not just the babies that were killed. It was the people that actually had to kill these babies and how it affected them too. I mean, I can't see putting somebody through something like that. I mean, that to me, that I couldn't even imagine that.
I'm in perfect agreement.
Yeah, well, theists and atheists have different morality, so that's one issue.
Right. Well,
and like I said, God could
this
explain this stuff to me too instantly, and he could, communicate. If he could communicate with me, he would communicate his reasons with me right away. And maybe if that happened, if God were real, and he explained these things to me and let me understand, I would worship him possibly. I can't say for sure, but as it stands right now, I would have to say no.
Right. Okay. So again, a lot of people seem to have a problem with not just the whole, wanting to sin, but the underlying thing is the morality thing in the first place. Because if God's real or not, he has his overlying morality, where even though, as I explained before, I believe we all have individual values. Shoot, I have my own individual values, but there's still an overarching morality that kind of encompasses all the things. And whether your morality lines up with the big morality depends on you or whatnot. But with something like that being said, I think as a lot of people are saying, well, that shouldn't be the overarching morality. I think things should be run this way or whatnot. So, like, how many of you here would say that it's kind of also a morality issue as well? I don't like using that word because I only think there's one morality now. Everybody else just kind of has their own individual values. But anyways, that includes me too.
Yeah, I just don't understand how if you don't have if your morality is not based on what's going to make you happy and what it's based on, but that's kind of off topic, but it seems like that's kind of the issue from my perspective with accepting your position that the God of the Bible is immoral.
Well, again, I don't claim that it's immoral. See, I don't even bother using those words anymore, because as soon as you start going down the moral argument, Christians pretty much won, because there is only one morality. It's more about if it lines up with your values or not, or if it, when it comes to the individual, like, does it take away their freedom or whatnot? Maybe that's more the core crux of the argument right there. But to just argue what ought to happen, it's like, if you didn't make the universe, you can't really say what ought to happen. You can just say what ought to happen in your opinion. That's what I do. But I don't longer argue for morality, though. That's something as a misotheist I can't do.
No, arguing the moral standpoint really is... It really is a tough proposition, because their default argument that really does not have a counter is, how can you presume to know the morality of an omnipotent being?
Well,
Yeah,
we got the Bible to work with because they want to assume that the Bible is the absolute word of God. So therefore, all we have to do is open up the Bible.
Hang on, there's a few people that are trying to figure out how to get in the Hangout on the outside chat. So basically, the way you do it is you can either private message me at Thaddeus Trill. No, there are people that were watching. They were participating. I'm pretty sure they're not just going to snipe it.
Well, no, my question was going to be if they are members of the Great Debate community on G+, the link is available in the post there.
Right.
If they are not members, then yes, direct message Thaddeus. Thaddeus will do a quick verification, and if you pass scrutiny, he will then reply with the link.
Right.
If you're
No
moral
different.
enough.
No different than
if you're moral, no, let's not even go there.
Oh, that was a good one.
That means no one's getting in. Then you guys shouldn't even be here. But
none of us should.
Yeah, exactly. I shouldn't even be here. But
you are here, unfortunately.
Well, Thaddeus is God in this case, so
right,
he's automatically moral.
Right, yeah, moderator is God.
You cannot argue with an omnipotent being. It doesn't do any good.
For now, because Steve McRae's rules, moderator is God for now. So I am everybody's God for now.
Atheists can believe in a God.
Yeah, they can. Yeah, so G-Man's correct. Oh, yeah, we solved it. Do you hear that, G-Man?
The day has come full circle.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
that is awesome.
you believe I exist? I mean, you can hear me, you can see me. So, I mean, there's evidence.
But we can't touch you or we can't touch you or taste you, so you could still be like a figment
yeah,
of
we can, but that costs extra.
Sorry about that, guys. But I don't know. So.
And just remember, out call does cost more than in call.
Okay, but
we're messed up, man. We're messed up.
Yeah, exactly. See, you can't really argue for God's morality now, can you? It's pretty hard, isn't it?
Even in the Bible, it says, no one can understand the meaning or the mind of God or something to that nature. You can never understand the mind of God or something like that.
Yeah, you can't look at a bicycle and you can't be from Venus or from some other galaxy, look at a bicycle and be able to reconstruct a human being from that. You just can't. You can't do it. It's impossible.
That is a very fair analogy. I do like that one.
There is also a passage in the Bible that says that God is also the creator of all good and all evil as well. So if anything can be said to be evil, then it's God's fault.
Yeah, everything comes from God. That's another Christian notion that I reject as a Ben Noach is they create an evil opposite of God. They create this Lucifer devil God, and the eternal damnation.
Well, something interesting.
And they create this fighting force. It's not heaven and hell. It's heaven and earth. It's not God and Satan. It's God and you. That's more of the Jewish, if you will.
Well,
go ahead.
Something interesting though. Actually, that St. Thomas Aquinas argues. So he takes the privation view of evil. So he says that everything that is good, or everything that is good insofar as it exists. So since things that exist can only cause things, something that doesn't exist can't cause anything. Therefore, necessarily, the cause of evil must be good.
Okay, so we have somebody new who is trying to get in for like a long time.
You want me to drop out?
No, it's okay. He's in here already.
Oh, okay.
I am Banana Jack.
Yeah, Jack.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, as far as the question of if a God did exist, if you would worship him, and we've already established this is the God of the Bible, correct?
This is correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I would have to say that's really kind of an edged question there because, I mean, you got the God of the Bible that if you don't worship him, you're kind of stuck because you want to worship some deity figure, or do you want to incur the wrath of said deity?
That's actually a good argument to not worship them. I mean, But we're talking about something that's all-knowing. So he knows the thoughts in your head. So if you worship him just to be on the safe side, he's not going to be fooled.
Yeah.
He's not going to be
Right.
fooled.
Right. And that's actually one of the reasons why I became a misotheist, because for a good year or so, I was kind of worshiping him just to be on the safe side. But the more and more I discovered about like Christianity, getting exposed to things, the more and more that I found worshiping this God kind of repulsive. But I still kind of felt like I had to do it anyways. And it's like, well, shoot, if he's not even going to... Because that thought occurred to me before. It's like, well, God's not going to be fooled if I'm just sitting here now for a good year or whatnot, just trying to worship him just to get by. So
Yeah,
like,
it's
oh,
actually...
yeah, whatever, screw it. I'm a misotheist then. So then I just start
May
identifying
I
as that.
may I ask a question, Mr. Trill?
What?
What's a misotheist?
I'm somebody who hates God or gods.
Yeah, it's like a misogynist, but against God.
Okay. I just want to know because I never heard that term before.
And the thing is, it's like you're either for God or against God. So technically, I'm a misotheist, even though I don't like to go around and saying it to like random people. I just prefer to call myself like non-religious or whatever. Or who knows, maybe use the term spiritual, but technically, if we're going by the biblical definitions of things,
there is
I'm
a
a
God.
misotheist.
In order to hate him, you would have to believe there is a God. Yes,
I do. I believe it's a Christian God. I accept their theology. I just don't follow it.
Yeah, I would argue that
even among Christians, there's 30-some thousand different sects of Christianity, and they all have their own little idea of what God is.
Some of them are compatible with each other, though.
Yeah,
I tried explaining.
There's probably I would say a couple thousand different versions, that I would call separate versions of.
Yeah, I understand, but the ones that I have seen, especially here in the community, seem to be pretty compatible with each other. Like there's a few.
I find that I'm a better Christian than most Christians out there. That a lot of them, and I probably shouldn't say most, but I think I'm a better Christian than most Christians that I've talked to, or a lot of them at least. From my view of how they talk back at you and the arrogance and.
No, I understand. I've dealt with that. That's one of the reasons I don't like Christianity in the first place as much. I mean, I can still get along with Christians just fine. I won't discriminate against them, but there's some people here in this community.
Matt Dillahunty had said that once, and I kind of like that what he said. He said,
I mean, people who know me in this community probably,
and I still am.
Well, here's the thing: when it comes to this community, that there's still people that I get along with, like Christian anarchists and Ouchie and Wayne. Just because we don't have the same theological views doesn't mean I can't be friendly towards them. So.
Yeah. I mean, that's my motto on my icon there. Be excellent to each other. I think that's the only real rule that you need.
That's an interesting one. You just shrank that down to like one commandment. So.
Yeah, perfect. Be excellent to each other. What else do you need there? There's
definition
dude, I suppose.
Definitions. Then you get into semantics.
I think a lot of what's misinterpreted, as far as I think, is in scriptures. You got to remember this was written at a time when people didn't know a lot of the science that we know now, and people didn't know a lot of how things worked, and there was a lot of misogyny and other things that were taking place. So yeah, the gods portrayed were capricious. They were arrogant. They were basically complete dicks. And I agree. If that is the God that is the God that exists, if there is a God, then yeah, I have a problem with that person, and I would have some definite questions for that God.
Right. See I was just gonna say, because the way I would. Here's the thing, because I thought about this before. It's like, would there be a way? Because I know there's Christians around here in this community who have tried to convert me back to Christianity, since I still basically believe the same thing. It's just the attitude. So it wouldn't be too hard. But I've thought about, like, what would it take in order to make me become a Christian again, as I was 2 years ago when I first joined this community. Well, the people around here. I know the Great Debate brand wasn't, like, trademarked in that back then. But anyways, but I thought about this, like, what would it take in order for me to turn back or whatnot? And it's like, there would have to be a way where I'd be able to basically essentially see this God as being good by my own standards. That'd be one of the ways. Like if because for now he goes against a lot of my values, goes against the core being of pretty much who I am as a person, almost. But the other thing would be if I could not see him that way, there'd have to be some sort of this weird sort of kind of like way I could like appreciate him almost as I appreciate my little brother. Because here's the thing, my little brother, I was the older brother we were growing up, and he's kind of a jerk. I mean, he's sure I love him and everything, but he's kind of a jerk. He thinks he's the best and everything. I mean, he's just a little kid, so I understand that he has like that kind of mentality. But the thing is, deep down, he still loves me. We get along and everything. But the thing is, it's like in a way that kind of is what makes him enjoyable as a little brother. The fact that he is kind of a jerk to people and he doesn't care what other people think and all that. And if I could see God as like the lovable douche, then maybe that's another way that I could still love God. If I could view him that way as my little brother, then that wouldn't bother me so much, and I could probably even become a Calvinist that way.
Kind of like Tony DiNozzo.
Well, yeah, it's like a way where I could, just if I could see him that way, then maybe I could get behind him. But I mean, that'd be a harder route
too. He'd have a lot of explaining to do, and if he was truly omnipotent and he would be able to communicate these things to me instantly, and I would be able to understand.
I mean, that'd be a harder route to take. And again, I think I'd lean more on the first side. I mean, if somebody could really get him to see me more like my little brother, maybe I wouldn't count on it. Because I mean, this is a God we're talking about here. I mean, there's difference between human behavior and somebody who's supposed to be above all that stuff, right? So
yeah,
that's another problem I have is if he's supposed to be above all this, why is he described like he is in the Bible? I mean, if he's above all this, he shouldn't be an angry, vindictive God.
Or care where you put your dick.
Yeah. And shouldn't be so concerned with human sexuality for some reason.
Or what they eat. I mean, take a look at the freaking kosher laws. Is that the kind of laws from a God who's above that sort of thing? I mean, that's
like what's wrong with the kosher laws?
Lobster's delicious.
Pork.
That's not. You can eat anything you want. I mean, kosher even for mankind. Why? I mean, what? I mean, yeah. There's a certain diet that the Israelite has to eat, but I mean, he said anybody could eat any creature on the earth, provided you remove its blood. What would be the? I mean,
but you really can't, you can't eat any creature you like without any consequence, because take a look at puffer fishes. Those things are, poisonous without proper preparation,
Yeah, or poisonous frogs, or
right.
A lot of things out there you can't eat.
Right, what's wrong with the kosher law? Is it just a selection of animals? Is it the lack of bacon? That's why I'm not kosher. Bacon.
So here's the thing. Hey guys. The thing is that somebody else wants to run a hangout soon, so I'm trying to bring this to a close. Like last time, I think we have enough time. I'm going to give everybody a little bit of a chance to say like a short closing statement, and then I'm going to shut the live portion down because somebody else wants to run a room with this channel.
Okay. May I ask a quick question?
A quick question.
Oh, do we know what this hangout's going to be about?
It's going to be something theology. It's run by Richard. I don't know what he wants to do with it. So.
It's something about the principle of causality.
Yeah, it's all weird, and I don't even know how to join it.
That sounds weird.
Things that go over my head, I don't really care about too much.
Will God be there?
Oh yeah,
is it Richard Bushy?
Probably. Yes, technically.
Richard Bushy is
everywhere.
pretty good. You might learn something if you stick on that one. But no, that's it. Yeah, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt, but just
okay. So I'm going to go from left to right on my screen. David, your final closing statement.
I guess my final closing statement would be kind of what I put in the chat. It would be if I were to meet God and find out that he's real and be able to have a conversation, I would want to know the reason for all the suffering and the misrepresentation of him in the world, because there's so many things that are so important about the belief in our immortal soul that to leave it to the amount of chance that it seems to be of left,
right,
is almost as unforgivable as the sin that he accuses Adam and Eve of in the Bible. And I would want an explanation.
Okay, I am Banana Jack. Your thoughts?
Yeah, if the God of the Bible actually did exist and I were to find out that this being truly did exist, I'd ask him why he made it so hard for me to find good evidence to believe in him, and him being omnipotent and omniscient, knowing that I would be a non-believer. It would have actually been kinder for him not to create me in the first place, instead of damning me forever, knowing already what path I would take.
Okay. Michael, your closing thoughts?
Is there another Michael besides me in this channel right now?
No, it's just you.
I just asking because there's a lot of Michaels around.
No, it's you. It's you.
Okay. My thoughts is that if God was be proven to be true, I assume that this would be, a worldwide thing rather than just a simple personal thing. I would still not believe, but not worship such a God, because like one of the other guys said, is that there's his word is set up in such a way that I can't possibly connect him with the Bible, and I wouldn't worship him because no superior being would want to be worshipped, as is stated in the Bible.
Okay. Multiple personality, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with the gentleman who just spoke before, Michael. If I would worship a God, but the God of the Bible, I don't think I could worship, because I think he's just too immoral for me to submit to. It would be almost like me submitting to the Nazis. It's just not going to happen, and God would know that. So.
Okay.
Actually, I think I may not have made myself very clear on that issue. Even if it wasn't the God of the Bible, I still wouldn't worship it for the same reasons that I gave before. That no superior being would want it.
Okay. Mr. Intelligent Design, please try to keep it short. Your closing statement?
Perfect.
Nice. Okay. Okay. Ouchie, your closing statement?
Well, I'm a Christian, but I mean, I think that ultimately, since even if I thought that God's actions were immoral, which I don't, I think that we ought to worship God because we want to obtain that perfect good that God is.
And Scott, your final words.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same as most of the people here, that as he's portrayed in the Bible, I could never worship such a character. But then again, like I said, is if he's omnipotent and all-knowing and all-loving, which are qualities that we give him, he would be able to explain the reason. Like I said, he'd have a lot of explaining to do, but he'd be able to do this if he's omnipotent. And like I said, if we all live by that one rule, be excellent to each other, I think the world would be a better place.
So basically what I'm saying is that a lot of you guys, again, if it wasn't for the fact you don't truly believe or you lack a belief, you would pretty much be misotheist like me.
Pretty much.
Yay. Okay. So I don't feel so alone with my theological position. But anyways, for my closing statement, I will say that, like, as I said before, the whole God concept, whatnot, I believe he exists. I believe that, that Jesus, died for everyone's sins and rose again the third day, all that stuff. I basically believe the same theology as the Christians do. I do not agree with the sense of morality. However, I will say that is the moral standard, but I do have my own individual values, and that goes against a lot of who I stand for as a person. And I'll say that that's basically one of the reasons why I'm a misotheist, is because it's gotten to the point where I can no longer basically balance the two different outlooks on life anymore. For a while there, for 2 years or so, I was doing that in my head. It's got to the point where, like, look, I just need to be honest with myself. And that's basically what I did. So I kind of came out of the closet in that sort of sense. So thanks everybody for watching this. I want to also give a little bit of a shout out to Hunter and Robert, because they have like the Sentinel Apologetics thing. And I'm giving a shout out for this specific reason because I think they should take note of this specific hangout. Because if you want to try to win souls to Jesus or whatnot, you should really take note of what was said here. If you have a good reason or whatnot for believing the way you do, despite what was said here or whatnot, if you have things to counteract how we believe or say, have you thought about this way? You know, please let us know. At least me. I have an open mind to these kind of things. Maybe you should really take note of this hangout and stuff, and maybe, you know, this shouldn't just be a one-time thing that people just forget about or whatnot. You know, maybe even G-Man should take note of this. So thanks everybody for watching. If you want to be part of conversations like this, well, first of all, if you want to watch them, be sure to subscribe to the Great Debate Community channel if you want to. The Great Debate Community is a place where you can talk about stuff like theology, well, science, philosophy, that kind of thing. The community page is there for people that want to discuss that kind of thing. You may want to check out Steve McRae. He is the owner of the Great Debate Community brand. He has his own YouTube channel. MXPin Valentine and I do a podcast on Friday. At least we used to, until his channel kind of got hijacked by a sniper and he's still dealing with some stuff. But when that gets on the way, you may want to check out that. So thanks everybody for watching. This has been your boy Trill the Cyberspace Fay, and peace out.